Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Morgan Ely with the University of Houston, the College of Pharmacy. I'm the Director of Pharmacy Admissions for the PharmD Professional Program. And today we have, I know that many of you that are joined today are in the process of writing all the components of your PharmCAS application. And today's session of Tell Your Story is going to be led by Mr. Jonathan Richards, who is from the University of Houston Writing Center. And so he has a lot of experience in helping students navigate through this process and share their story on paper, or I should say online. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jonathan Richards, and he will take it from here. I will be here throughout the course of the session too. If there are questions or concerns, you can just drop them in the chat. And with that introduction, please, Mr. Richards, take it away.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody's had a good morning so far, and looking forward to a fun weekend, hopefully. I'll go ahead and introduce myself a little more formally. My name is Jonathan Richards. I'm the STEM program manager at the University of Houston Writing Center. I've been with the Writing Center since 2008, so roughly, what is that, 12 years? I'm not a mathematician, but I enjoyed a lot, and one of my favorite things to work on are personal essays, personal statements for graduate, professional, medical, pharmacy programs. So I'm very happy to be here today assisting all of you. If you have any questions at all, feel free to interrupt, write it in the chat. I want this session to be as useful to you all. My understanding is you're sort of at the beginning of the process for applications and for your personal statement. So this is a perfect opportunity, if you have any questions, to just lay them out while we go through. I'm known to be a pretty fast presenter, so I don't know that I'll need the entire hour. But regardless, I'm happy to answer any questions as needed while I go through. So let me go ahead and share my screen to the PowerPoint I'll be using. And we'll get started officially. Can everyone see that? And can everyone hear me? Is a really good question.
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. Thank you. And again, if you have questions, please just interrupt me. This is all a little still weird. I know we're, what, 2 years into this. So navigating online virtual presentations, a little tricky, but we can make it work. So today I'm going to be talking about some general tips, strategies, ideas, and so forth on how to improve, begin wherever you are in the process, how to work with your personal essay for pharmacy school. So the first thing, the very, very first thing to keep in mind when we're working with personal essays or statements is that they are all persuasive documents. Personal statements, personal essays are going to look different per what you're applying for. One for pharmacy school is going to look completely different for doing one for study abroad. And that's going to look different from, say, doing a Fulbright to medical school. They're all going to look just a little different. But the one thing they all have in common is they are all persuasive. You're trying to persuade the committee why you are the right candidate for the program you're applying for. And so that's the one thing that we really always need to be coming back to. Am I being persuasive enough in this document that I'm writing? All right. So what makes a personal essay successful? Well, first of all, it articulates in a clear, realistic, and focused manner your motivation for applying to pharmacy school. So this includes identifying your personal values and tying them to your personal traits by referencing defining experiences. Now, something I might say repeatedly throughout this presentation is making concrete connections, all right? So we want to make sure you are making concrete connections in your writing between what are your experiences, what are your goals, how are they connected? How have your previous and current experiences prepared you for what you're applying for? How is that going to prepare you for your future careers as pharmacists? These are things that you need to touch on and make real connections in the writing. And I know that when we write, we often think, well, so-and-so is just going to understand what I'm saying. They know what I mean by this. And the thing that I always tell students is to pretend that the reader is the laziest person that you know. And so you have to do all the work for the reader. If the reader has to read a sentence a few times or make assumptions, you're not doing your job as the writer for the personal essay. So it's very, very important that you be very direct, that you make the connections that are there, even if it seems obvious to you. It's important to do that because we don't want to leave the reader with questions or assumptions. We want to be able to have the agency over our own stories, right? Okay, it sets you apart from other applicants. Real quick, somebody can just turn off their mic and tell me, how many applicants do you think there are in each cycle?
Like 400.
300.
Yeah, around about a lot, right? And so when these, when the committees are reading your personal essays, it's very easy to remember which ones are good, which ones are bad, and it's very easy to forget everything else in between. So I've sat on a scholarship committee where we had to read personal statements, and we had to read about 700 at one time. Now I can tell you which ones were the really good ones. I remember which ones were the really bad ones. I do not remember about 90% of them, honestly. And so we want to make sure that you're remembered for the right reasons. Set yourself apart, you know. It demonstrates evidence of relevant experience and preparation. We want to see that you're prepared. We can look in the application about they've got a good GPA. They did shadowing experience. It's listed on their resume. They took all the good classes. It's on their transcript. So there's all these things we can see, but we need to see that you can articulate how those experiences, how those instances that you had have prepared you for studying to be a pharmacist. It demonstrates your fit and suitability for the program to which you're applying to. So this goes back kind of to what I was saying about being a persuasive document. You want to persuade the committee that this is the absolute perfect program for you, and that you are the perfect fit. You're like the last piece of the puzzle that we've been looking for that program. And you do that by making concrete connections. You do that by really fleshing out your experiences and how they're related to your goals of being a pharmacist, of studying in that program, and then eventually perhaps being a pharmacist. All of this is very, very important. So making those concrete connections to establish that your fit and your suitability for the program is spot on. And that's very, very important. And it complements your other admissions materials without repeating them. So I mentioned just now, we can see if you shadowed somebody, it's probably on your resume. We can see how well you did in your classes. Your GPA is going to be on your transcript. Your classes are going to be listed on your transcript. So there's really not a need to repeat any of that information or list the things that are already known in, say, a resume, a transcript, other application materials. Now, what you can do, for example, let's say we can see that you took organic chemistry, for example. We can see you did well in it. What we don't know about that is, did you struggle in it? How did you overcome those struggles? Those are things that you can address in the personal essay. And so be thinking about that, because you don't want to list things that we already can see in other areas. And one reason you don't want to do that is because you don't have a lot of space. You want to use the space in your personal essay to your advantage. There's only so much room on there. I have a phrase, I don't know if it quite makes sense, but you want to make sure you're getting all those chicken nuggets. You want to make sure that everything that's in there is a plus. There's no negative. And if there is a negative, you want to be able to turn it around until it's a positive. Show how you grew from that instance. Show how you became a stronger individual. Show how you learned from that experience so that you don't end up in that negative experience in the future. Do you have any questions about things that I've talked about right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, so about the courses that I have been taking, for example, organic chemistry,
Yeah.
I understand about the part for someone is doing good or is struggling. My question is not about that, but the thing that I write, which is kind of related to pharmacies, is that my own professor, he say that, why you have to take organic chemistry? That's what I want to use, because a pharmacist or a doctor should know that about acidic and basic medications, because acid and base, they react. So is there any way I include this in my essay, what a kind of experience I got from taking organic chemistry?
You could. I'm wondering though, if is that a wide known experience for would everybody know this experience? Because if everybody knows it, is there a point in using that space? Because your personal essay is prime real estate. So you
Yeah.
want to use and talk about things that are the most important. And if it's something that everybody knows is important for this and everybody does it, then do you want to use that prime real estate, that space, to take up talking about that? So it's a personal choice. And I guess it just depends. Does everybody know about that? Is that something everybody does?
I don't know. But this is something, yeah, that he told our professor. He just say that to me because how much important is organic chemistry is that. But so, yeah, I think he did it some other to other students too, that it's very important from the very first part to go till the end. So that's why I asked.
But if the pharmacy committee knows that it's important, is it worth your while to repeat? I know that it's important. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a personal choice. If you think that it's going to be, if you think it's going to behoove you to put that in there, if you think that it's going to work with the rest of your essay, then that should be fine. Everybody's essay is going to be different. There's no one right way to do personal essays. There are several wrong ways to do a personal essay, but there's not one right way. And the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to be giving you lots of tools. You decide which tools you want to use that's best for you. So any other questions? No? Thank you. That was a really good question. So we'll continue moving forward with tips for writing personal essays. Create a cohesive narrative with a clear thesis. So when we say a clear thesis, I'm not necessarily meaning that like at the end of the first paragraph, there has to be a strict thesis statement, like what we would know from, say, an English composition course. It's not necessarily what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we need to have a kind of blueprint, a map system maybe, to know where we're going. So the reader needs to know, what are you going to talk about? How are you going to talk about it? What's the order you're going to talk about it in? So that's really what we mean by clear thesis to establish your narrative. It's kind of a guide. Aesthetically, if I'm the reader and I see like where we're going with this, what order are we going to talk about things in, it makes it easier for me, the reader. Now, is it more work for the writer? Yes, it is. But remember, we want to make sure that the reader, the committee who's reading these, has the easiest experience, that they understand it completely without having to reread anything. They shouldn't have to go back and reread sentences or go back to the first paragraph and say, wait a minute. Because if they're having to read about 400 of these, they probably don't have the time to do any of that. So stuff like this is also important to think about. They don't have time to reread or go back to this paragraph or make sure, well, did they talk about this already? Did they talk about this twice? They don't have time for that. So just be thinking about that, and laying it all out at the very beginning, how you're going to talk about things makes it much easier for the reader, okay? And so here's an example. Experiences such as this have helped me understand that my interest in research only finds its fulfillment when patients are successfully treated. I want to become a doctor because my natural curiosity for laboratory research is combined with a successful ability to communicate to diverse audiences, a combination that is vital for effectively delivering positive healthcare outcomes to underserved populations. So we can see right there in that second sentence that they clearly defined why they want to be a doctor, what are the different aspects of why they want to be a doctor, and we can kind of see these are the areas that we're going to be talking about in more detail as we get through the paper. So does this slide make sense? Does this point make sense? Are there any questions before I move forward?
Would this be similar to writing a college essay, like a college app essay?
In many ways, yes. I think there's more weight behind this kind of essay that you're going to be doing. There's a bit more seriousness to it, but yes, I would say there's a lot of similarities to that. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So write in your own voice. I say this all the time to students. We don't want to admit robots into programs. We want to admit humans. And we want you to be able to write in your authentic voice, we also want you to be professional. So you shouldn't be using any colloquial terms. I wouldn't necessarily use as many, natural, casual speech, so to speak. But we don't want you also to be using all of these words that you're looking up in the thesaurus because you think that writing needs to be this heavy, heightened academia, flowery speech. We're not looking for that. I was working with a few personal essays, personal statements the past few months. And this was a problem I saw with a lot of students. They were using words like cornucopia. I don't use cornucopia when I'm speaking with anybody. So, it's something to think about. Do you use the words that you're using in professional settings? If you're writing words that you're not using in a professional setting on your own, then you may want to consider, am I sounding authentic? Am I sounding like I'm writing in my own voice? That's very important. And I want to tell you something. If we as the reader can tell that you're not being authentic, it's not as pleasurable as a reading experience for us. And we remember that. We remember that, ooh, this sounds really fake, for a lack of a better word, or crafted in a way that makes them seem not as authentic. And so we really want to see that. So this is an example that needs improvement. From all of these experiences, I came to a realization that being a pharmacist means being an imperative leader, an indispensable team player, and someone with refined dexterity skills. Can someone tell me why this needs improvement?
Reading from that statement just feels like there's just a whole bunch of things going on, and it's just a lot of words thrown at your face.
Well, and what do those words mean? What does refined dexterity skills even mean?
Beats me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all of these are they sound really fancy, right? On the surface, they're gilded. They sound really fancy and pretty and like things you should put in this. But like indispensable team player, what does that even mean? Imperative leader, what is an imperative leader? So these are things that you really need to be watchful of because it's very easy to just slap on some fancy sounding taglines and say, well, I'm good. This sounds great. This sounds like what every other person in academia is writing. Let's move forward. Wrong-o, move back. We need to make this more sounding like you wrote it, like a human wrote it, not a robot, not a computer, not an AI system. So this is a better example. Leading a pharmacy practice requires coordination among many professionals, and my experience as president of UH Students for Change has demonstrated my success in working with a team of my peers. So do you see how there's this kind of concrete connection about an experience that this student has had wherein they were president of UH Students for Change, and they're making a connection about what they learned from that experience. In this case, their success in working with a team of their peers. So they've made this concrete connection, and that's very important. So we see that. Are there any questions about what we talked about with this slide? Okay. Talk about your characteristics and qualifications by referencing specific examples. We saw a little bit of this in the last slide with the improved statement, but I want to go a little bit more into detail. Now, I've said concrete connections a few times here. And what I really mean, I want to go further into that. What I mean is if you had a shadowing experience, say with a pharmacist, we want to know, what did you learn from it? It's not just, well, I learned how to measure doses, or I learned the differences between this class of drug or this class of drug. That's not what we want to know. What skills, what tangible, transferable skills did you learn from this? Did you learn how to communicate with patients more so? Did you learn how to engage with a group of pharmacists or work well in a team? These are things that we want to learn about from those experiences, and making concrete connections and being very direct and obvious in your writing about those is going to create a much easier reading experience for the reader, and thus improve your chances perhaps of getting some sort of acceptance. Okay, needs improvement. To succeed academically, you must work hard, and I am well qualified based on my work ethic. This is something I see all the time in student writing when we're talking about personal essays, personal statements. And the idea is that they're mentioning it, but they they tell me, but they don't show me, is what I hear a lot. They tell me they're a hard worker without giving me any evidence. If you remember from maybe your English comp classes, whether that was in college or high school, people will say, well, if you're going to make a claim, you have to back it up with evidence. This is the same thing here. If you're going to claim you have good work ethic, the reader wants to know, show me. How do you have good work ethic? Where did you learn this good work ethic come? Give me an example. And so a much better version of that is going to be working as a math tutor while simultaneously taking 18 hours and receiving a 3.5 GPA last semester was a challenge, but my planning and time management skills assured my success. In addition to using the work as a way to earn money, I could also brush up on my skills for my classes. And I knew that I would also have time to study when I wasn't working with students. So you see what's been done here to kind of draw it out and really show the reader that they have a good work ethic. Does that make sense? Are there questions about this slide?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
About the experiences, like this person said about with math tutor, being a math tutor. But so the thing that I want to say is, since I couldn't work at a pharmacy, and I'm working at Memorial Hermann as a volunteer.
Okay.
Of course. Is there any, like, if I want to say any experiences from when I work at hospital, like, and I work at different sections. So can I say, like, the thing that you say, like, communicate with patients or teamwork, can I say that for the hospital?
I think you
I never
could.
work with pharmacy departments because I have to have a license in order to work as pharmacy.
Well, I mean, so for example, in this case, having a good work ethic, would it matter if you learned a good work ethic from something different from pharmacy and still wanting to go into pharmacy? I mean, it's one thing if they're connected, and even still, I would argue that it still is connected because it's still in a health profession, right? So I would think that it's totally appropriate to talk about your experiences in a hospital as a volunteer. What did you learn from that? And how do you think that what you learned from there is going to be helpful to you while you're in pharmacy school and while you're a pharmacist in the future?
Yeah, because I want to work at hospital as pharmacist, like clinical pharmacy.
Well, that would be even better. I think you could make a connection there about, my eventual goal is to work as a clinical pharmacist in a hospital, and volunteering in a hospital has helped really show that that's the path I want to go down. I think making that concrete connection is that's going to be great. So just reach for those experiences and see, how can I connect? That's what I mean by concrete connections. And being that direct in your writing is going to be very, very useful to you all. So great question. Are there any other questions?
I had a question about the intro of the personal statement. So would we need like a really interesting hook, like something to draw the reader in, or is it just like a straight up personal statement?
So like I said before, not every personal statement, personal essay is going to be the same. Everybody says that you have to have some kind of hook or like plug or draw in. And I've seen them done very well, but I've also seen them done really, really poorly. So take, for example, a lot of people like to include personal anecdotes. What I say is, if you're going to use a personal anecdote, make sure that it is related to what you're actually writing about. I was reading a personal statement and helping a student for medical school, and they started with a personal anecdote to try to establish a hook. But the personal anecdote they used was about how they walked on the seashore with their grandfather looking for seashells. But then they went right into being, oh, I want to be a cardiologist. Well, there's no relation between the story and them wanting to be a cardiologist. Do you know what I mean? So their intention to put a hook in there using a personal anecdote really didn't work. So you can use a hook. It's not a horrible idea, but I caution students with it because the obsession is then, oh, I have to have a hook. Oh, it has to be good. Oh, it needs to be the best personal anecdote. No, if you don't have a hook that you think will work best for you, then maybe it is better to just kind of jump right into it and go right for the meat and potatoes, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
No problem.
Oh,
Any other-
also, sorry, but
No, go ahead.
is this recording going to be email test or recording of the session?
It
So
can.
yes, we'll have this posted on our website page once this recording is done.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions? These are great. And as I said, I really enjoy helping students with their personal statements. I think it's because, a lot of times when I'm working with engineers on their technical writing, they're not necessarily the most happy to be there. But I know that people that are working on their personal essays, personal statements, they're very motivated, they're very excited about this new step in their life, but they also tend to be really nervous. And I want to be able to help you guys not be as nervous about this process. It is high stakes and it can be stressful. It doesn't have to be. All right. So moving forward to the next slide, be specific. This is going to be a big one. I've talked about concrete connections and being very direct in your writing. This goes into that, being very specific. She needs improvement. My internship helped me understand the power of serving others. What does this sentence say? Not much. But this one, through working directly with wonderful researchers in the dynamic field of biotechnology, I see now that this field has the wonderful potential not only to be on the cutting edge of technological innovation, but also to aid many patients who previously would not have had access to such resources. So we get a little bit of the why, a little bit of the how, we get some more information from this. It's not just making a claim without backing it up. You have to be specific. You have to make concrete connections. You have to be direct. And you can't leave any assumptions in the air. You can't say, the reader just is going to know what I'm saying. No, don't do that. Don't even try it. Be specific. And at the same time, we want to be concise. No one said personal essays were easy. Being concise, but being specific. Remember, you only have so much space to write these. And that space is, as I said earlier, prime real estate. You want to make sure, what am I talking about? Is it going to be in my best interest to talk about this versus this? Is it going to be in my best interest space-wise for me to spend more time on this rather than this? So just something to think about while you're working through. So this is a really good example. Through working directly with researchers in biotechnology, I now understand the field's potential not only to be on the cutting edge of technological innovation, but also to aid in many patients in need. So what we're seeing here is pretty much everything that we saw from the better section, but it's been condensed. It's been made more concise, right? When sentences are really long, when we start to go on and on and on, for the reader, it can get a little tiring. And remember, they're going to be reading about 400 of these. So if everybody is writing this way for the second example, where it's a little bit more on the long-winded side, they tend to go on and maybe ramble, it's not going to be enjoyable for the reader. And if you want to get in the program, you want to make sure that your personal statement, your personal essay is enjoyable to read. And so by making it concise, it makes it easier to understand, easier to read, and more enjoyable to read. So something to think about. Okay, so I want to go ahead and show you guys an example. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I'm going to try to put it in the chat for you guys. Just give me 1 second, bear with me. Here we go. Personal essay example. Okay, so all of you should have in your chat a file, a PDF, personal essay example. You can open that up as you will. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and take a minute to look at this example. So things I want you to be paying attention to while you're looking at this. What does the author do successfully? What's done well? What could use improvement? And then we'll talk from there. So I want to give you all about, let's see, it's 12:30 now, and we still have quite a bit to get through. So I'm going to give you 7 minutes to look through this. That should be plenty of time to make notes, to take a deep look into what the writing is doing, what's done well, what's not done well. And then we're going to take some time to talk about that for a bit and discuss it and go over any questions you might have. So 7 minutes is 12:30 right now. At 12:37, I'm going to come back on with my face and my camera, and we'll continue with the presentation.
I don't
If you have questions while you're reading, feel free to type those in the chat.
Could
don't
you
see the
resend it?
file.
A couple of people aren't seeing the file. And you're muted, Jonathan.
Sorry, I put it in the chat and I sent it to everyone. I'm not sure. And I am seeing now everybody's having problems. Okay. Let me try again. Okay, can people see it now?
Yes, I was able to open it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are there people though that can't still? I don't see it. No, I still don't. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. If you are able to open it, you can open it. I'm going to stop sharing this PowerPoint and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to the example.
I can see it on your screen. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I know I said 12:37. Since we had a little difficulty, we'll make it 12:38. If you're not able to have it open via PDF from the chat, I'll go ahead and scroll down here in a minute so you can see the last few lines of the personal statement below on the second page. So just a few more seconds and I'll be moving it down to the last few lines. Okay, so can anyone tell me what's been done well about this personal statement or personal essay?
They talked about what they gained from the shadowing experience.
They talked about their experiences and they did a pretty good job at making those concrete connections we've been talking about, right? So what else is done very well? The hook. I'll go up a little bit more. Yeah, there is a hook here using a personal anecdote. I would, if I was working with this student, I would want to know exactly why they're using this specific personal anecdote as a hook. Perhaps there's one that would be better suited for the overall paper, but I think that it's a very good attempt. It's a very, very good attempt. What about some things that could be improved upon? Oh, I like struggles were stated, however, they displayed what was gained from the struggles. Exactly. If you're going to talk about a challenge or something that you struggled with, you need to illustrate in your writing that you're able to overcome those challenges. The reason why we want to see that in these personal essays is because the programs you're applying for are going to be challenging. So the people in the committee reading these are going to want to know, are you going to be able to be successful? You know, what are things that could be improved upon?
Yeah, I think this person only talks about his or her successes. But this gives me an idea to add something on my own, from my own experience, like COVID, you know, when COVID came, I was really struggling, like, but I overcome it.
Yeah.
So I would like to share that.
What I will say about talking about COVID, because if it's done well, it can be really, really helpful for your case in persuading the committee that you deserve to be in the program. But what I will say about this is, remember, there are probably about 400 of these that they're reading. And if everyone is going to talk about COVID, your application is not set aside from everybody else. It gets lost in the crowd. So you can talk about how COVID affected you, but make sure you're doing it in as unique a way as possible. Now, I can't tell you how to do that. That has to deal with your own personal experiences through COVID. But if you just say, COVID was really hard and I had to figure out a way how to navigate that. Think about how many other people are going to be talking about that.
Yeah, I want to talk about the pandemic, like when the classes like transmitted to online.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, you know, how many other people had to do that though?
I think many of them.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. If you're going to write about that, keep that in mind so that you can stick out from the rest of the crowd.
Okay.
Because it's like when people say, oh, I want to be a doctor because I want to help people. Everybody's going to say that. So you want to make sure that, for example, if you're going to talk about how you navigated the pandemic, make sure that it's a unique experience that you can talk about.
Okay.
Mhm. I will say, as one of the things that I think they could have done better, and then I think we're going to have to move on here, this is a giant paragraph. Would anyone agree with me? When you look at this page, is anybody like, whoa, this is too much? No, just me?
Yes, I'm saying that.
It's a lot. It's a little overwhelming. And so one of the things to keep in mind when you're doing this, you still want to have paragraphs. Each of those paragraphs needs to have some kind of purpose to them. I want to give you guys a revision technique that you can use for any kind of writing, and it involves purpose. So if we imagine what is the purpose of the writing that we're looking at, you can go from as abstract to concrete about this as you can. What is the purpose of the paragraph that I'm reading currently? What is the purpose of the sentence within that paragraph? What is the purpose of the word within the sentence? You can go as minute as possible, but really when we're talking about from an organization standpoint, when we have paragraphs, be sure to consider what is the purpose of each of those paragraphs, because each paragraph and each sentence should have a unique and distinct purpose within the writing for your personal essay. So just another tool for you to use. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop my share screen. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint. 1 second. And we're going to continue. So, steps to develop a successful writing process. Now, the steps that I'm about to go over, it's not exhaustive, and it's not necessarily in the order that everybody should do. Your writing process is going to be your own unique writing process. Everyone's is different. The things we're going to go over now, everybody usually has some form or shape of them. So like the first one we're going to be talking about is pre-writing. Everybody usually does some kind of pre-writing, whether you're just keeping it in your head, you're writing an outline, you're brainstorming on a whiteboard, you're using index cards and post-it notes. Usually everyone has a different version of pre-writing that works for themselves. I'm here to encourage you to use as many different tools as possible as you craft your personal essay. You may have a method for your writing that works just for you. And if that works, perfect, use that. I do want to challenge you to try new and different ways of incorporating things into your writing process just to see how it goes. It might help you and it might not. And if it doesn't, you can always go back to the way that you have been doing it if that's how it works. But right now, I'm going to give you some tools for you to use, for you to consider, maybe to incorporate into your existing writing process and go from there. So pre-writing. Pre-writing looks a lot like what I have just been talked about brainstorming, outlining, just thinking of things in your head, jotting down ideas in a journal, using index cards or post-it notes to write down ideas and physically organize them. If you're a visual learner, one of the things you can use to really tackle the issue of, is my organization, really working for me? Does it flow well? Write your ideas or the points that you're making in your paper on an index card or a post-it note, right? And what you can do then is, because they're movable and because they're small, lay them out on a table in the order that you're wanting to present your ideas, the order which you're going to talk about them in your paper. Then what you can do, because again, they're small and you can move them, change the order, take pictures on your phone so you can see the differences in these different ways that you want to organize things. And it will get a little messy, but it can be helpful, particularly if you're more tactile in learning or if you're more of a visual and you need everything laid out. Just another tool for you. This is a brainstorming worksheet. We look at personal. What are the talents, the interests, the attributes that make you special? Community, extracurricular activities, volunteer work, civic or church groups that you're involved in, academic, achievements, awards, and recognitions that you have received, and the campus organizations and special programs that you're involved in. Personal, your work experience. And then going forth to see, do we see any traits or characteristics that have a direct connection to what you're wanting to do, to getting into a pharmacy program and to then eventually being a practicing pharmacist. So some things to think about when we're doing this pre-writing stage. No one's pre-writing stage is going to look the same. So some people may use a worksheet that looks like this. Some people may just take out a sheet of paper and start writing. And that's totally fine. Some kind of pre-planning before you really get into the nitty-gritty of drafting a draft is going to be really, really helpful to you in the long run. So I said before, some people in their pre-writing, they just do it all in their head. I don't recommend that. But I know that some people don't like to do, traditional outlining, Roman numeral 1 intro, letter A, point 1, little case A, sub point 1. Some people don't vibe with that. Some people don't like it. So use what works for you. Drafting, it's usually going to be the next step. Once you have your pre-writing done, and I want to stress, this doesn't mean that once you do all your pre-writing, you can't go back to brainstorming. You can't go back to outlining. You can move back and forward through the writing process as needed, whatever you need to do. So if you're drafting your paper and you need to go back to the drawing board to do some brainstorming, that's acceptable. That's totally fine. And especially for something like this, a personal essay for a pharmaceutical program. So once you have your pre-writing done, you're ready to begin writing a draft of your story that reveals your character, grabs your reader's interest, and clearly communicates your message. So some tips. It's going to be your first time, when you're drafting. Your first time is not going to be perfect. You're going to have to write several drafts. I had a friend that was accepted full ride into an international master's program in the UK. She had to write 17 different drafts of her personal statement. So I'm not saying you have to write 17 drafts of your personal essay, but don't be afraid if you have to write 5 drafts, 7 drafts, 10 drafts. If 3 drafts is enough and you're happy with that, that's fine too. But don't be afraid to have to do more than 1 draft. You shouldn't be turning in your first draft anyway. If you get stuck in an area, just come back to it. That's okay. Give yourself time to put the draft aside for a few hours or some days, ideally. When we do the revision process, for example, we tend to do that right after we've been writing, because we all procrastinate. We're all human, we all procrastinate. So when we draft, we tend to do our revisions right afterwards. Our brain has no break. So that means we really have to give ourselves a break, because when our minds are rested, we have a better opportunity to be able to see what are the areas that we can improve upon on our own. When you've finished the draft, check to make sure that you've addressed all of the required items. Make sure that you read, that you reread, that you reread your program's requirements. Somebody had a question about how many words do they typically have? How many characters should they have? How many pages? That's going to be in the program requirements. So make sure that you really pay attention. Are you addressing each of the line items that's being requested of you? Revising and editing, this is usually one of the last steps in your process. And some tips to think about. Give yourself time to reread and revise multiple times. My favorite method for self-revision, and again, it does take time, and I am a procrastinator, I'm human, we all procrastinate, is to set a pre-deadline before the deadline. So for example, let's say that I want to submit my draft next Friday. I'm going to have a completed and finished draft done, say 2 days before that, maybe even 3, if I can have the time to do it. 2 or 3 days before the set deadline, have that done. Print it out and put it physically in a drawer. Walk away, forget about it. Now, I don't know what it is about printing it out, holding it in your hand physically, putting it in a drawer. I didn't invent the magic. This is just how it tends to work. A few days later of it being in that drawer, take it out, physically hold the paper in your hand. Don't have it on your laptop. Don't read on your computer screen. Hold it in your hand and read it out loud. You are going to be amazed at what you find. You're going to be amazed at how many changes you can make. And so just as another tool for you to use, I call it the magic drawer. Just put it in a drawer, forget about it. If you don't have 2 or 3 days, try to just do 1 day. If you don't have 1 day, that's going to be a little trickier, maybe an afternoon, but don't try to do your revision process right as soon as you're done drafting. You need a break. You have to take a break. Proofread again, and then proofread once more. It's often a good idea to let it cool. We just talked about it between proofreading sessions. That way your brain can see the differences. Because if you're making similar mistakes throughout, and your brain is a little tired from doing all that drafting and writing, you're not going to be able to catch it. Okay, so just something to keep in mind there. Visit the Writing Center. Writing Center is a free service, and by free, I mean it's included in all your student fees to get some help on your writing. We're there for all students on campus. We work with all different kinds of writing, including personal statements and personal essays. So if you need help, if you feel like getting somebody to look at it would be a great idea, make an appointment with the Writing Center. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Have a friend or a parent read it, then revise and polish, then proofread again. Be sure that the final draft is the best work that you're capable of doing. And that's why I say, you don't have to do 17 drafts. If 10 is appropriate, if 5 is appropriate, that's okay. But don't be afraid to do multiple drafts so that you get the best possible draft that you can come up with to the best of your abilities. Okay, so I'm going to go over this really quickly so that I can answer any final questions. But if you have questions about making an appointment with the Writing Center, it's very easy to contact us, all right? You can send us an email, you can call our offices Monday through Friday, and we'd be happy to help set up an appointment for you so that you could get some extra help. So what you see here is a screenshot of our scheduling system. If you've never been with us before, you're going to click that hyperlink where the big red arrow is showing that says click here to register. And then you're going to be selecting graduate writing consultations. Now, just because you may not necessarily currently be graduate students, you are going to be working on something for graduate studies. Ergo, we're going to allow you to meet on the graduate writing consultation schedule. Moreover, that schedule allows you to meet with somebody for an hour, one-on-one, face-to-face, or online. You can do either of those. Currently in the summer, we're only offering online appointments. We will probably start to offer in-person appointments again, potentially the second week of classes. So if you have more questions about that, feel free to reach out to us. So this is what the schedule looks like. Now, you'll notice that a same day, like let's say if this is Monday, you can't make any appointments because it's all grayed out. You are able to make an appointment on your own the next day or 2 days in advance, or realistically 2 weeks in advance if you want. If you want to have reoccurring appointments over several weeks, contact us. We'll be able to help you do that. If you have a specific interest in something that you want to work on and you want to make sure that you're working with the right person, contact us. We'll be able to help you with that. Basically, the way to navigate the schedule is that the darkest blue spaces, those long spaces, unavailable times, and no one's available at those times, okay? The slightly gray spots are past times. These lighter blue spots, those are for other students that have met up. These red spots, same there, okay? These white spots, though, are available. So let's say you wanted to meet with Rami at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, February 6th. You would click this white spot, fill out the information, and then confirm your appointment, okay? So you can see what that looks like here on the left. Yes to schedule online appointment. If you want an online appointment, you'll select that, you could leave that drop-down menu as it is. If you want a face-to-face appointment, go to that drop-down menu and select face-to-face. And then you'll save appointment down at the bottom. If you're coming in to see us face-to-face, we're located in the classroom business building. That's going to be right where the A is on that graphic on the right, okay? So you can see A is classroom business building. If you walk by our building, you can see on the second floor that there's a big sticker in the window that says UH Writing Center. We're on the second floor, and those interactions will take place in 234. But again, if you have questions, moreover, you can call us, you can email us. We're more than happy to help you guys out. Okay, so it's 12:55. I managed to make it all within an hour. Whew. Do we have any final questions, comments, concerns, aspirations?
Yeah. So since for me, I'm kind of really concerned about this personal statement because English is not my first language.
Okay.
So I'm so concerned about it. So I want to be the best. So I have a question. What is the first available date? Like, because it's February. So is there any like for August, September?
Well, we are having appointments now currently because the summer sessions are going. Students still need help on their writing during the summer. So we do have appointments in the summer. But as I said, the summer appointments are going to be all online. If you want face-to-face appointments, you're going to have to wait until August. Okay.
Okay.
And there was a question, is it the Writing Center, is it only available for University of Houston students, or is it available for anyone?
So for this group, we'll allow you all to come and use our services because you're wanting to apply for the program at the university. If you're currently a student, of course you can use it. If you're a recent graduate of the university, of course you can use it. But if somebody is, say, from another institution, they're not in this group and they want to use our services, we might direct them to another facility, another service that's off campus.
So
The short answer is yes.
Okay, great. So what I'm hearing is people that are on this particular session are able to, but not if they, like 5 months from now, they see this webinar and they try to take advantage of your services, that would not be the case.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Sure. So we're going to publish this webinar once it's done. So are the folks that watch this webinar in March, will they still have that opportunity as well, or no?
Yes, they will.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And this is something going out to everyone. I'm sending out the, in the chat, you'll see a quick survey. If you would be sure to complete that survey. We're going to continue to allow you to answer questions, but this survey is going to help us learn about what you thought about this particular session, as well as to get some of your feedback. So we always appreciate that. The good and the bad, the ugly. We'd love to get your insight. So I'll link that up. And now at this point, so if you have other questions, feel free to chime in for Mr. Richards or myself.
I do see there's a question, is there a preferred format when writing the essay? As far as
No, there's not really preferred format, because you're going to drop this into the PharmCAS essay section, and so that format, it's going to format it there for you. I will tell you that if you're looking if you're concerned about character counts, rather than doing the few spaces for a paragraph break, you can just do a line break. I've seen that happen quite often, so that'll help.
And I'm going to go ahead and put our website into the chat as well. If you'll just give me just a moment. So there, now you have that as well. Are there any other questions?
A quick question about, give me 1 sec.
So Michael, I think you may, if there's a lot of feedback there, if you need to drop it in the chat, you certainly may.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
you're being heard.
All right, sorry about that. All right, I had a question earlier about the personal essay that you sent out earlier. It's just that I'm not sure if it's supposed to be written as it was, but like after the first couple of lines, like after they talked about like the night quill and the day quill, the next like 3 or 4 statement, or next 3 to 4 like a line for kind of like, in my opinion, kind of generic. Is it supposed to be like that?
No, I would agree with you. I thought that it was also pretty generic. And so that's why I said, there is an attempted hook. I don't know if that specific anecdote they chose was the best anecdote to use. So if I were working with that student, I would want to have a conversation with them about why did they choose this anecdote? Were there other anecdotes they were thinking about? Because again, using a personal anecdote is a strategy, and it can sometimes be a very good strategy. Is it the strategy that needs to always be used? No. So at that point, that would be the point where I would need to have a conversation with that student to see what was the thinking behind this, and what is the intended purpose that you're trying to achieve there.
And so there was a question about when reaching out to the Writing Center to enter what course and instructor for scheduling appointments. What was the answer for that?
So if you're coming in for a personal essay or personal statement, you can just put NA or not applicable in course or instructor, because we know people come in to work on things that aren't course related. And so that's okay. Just put not applicable in those. That's fine. It is helpful for us when we're working with you in the space that says, what do you want to work on today, to be as specific as possible. Now, if you say personal essay for pharmacy program, we're going to have a general idea of what you want to work on. But if you tell us, I'm having difficulty brainstorming for my personal essay for my pharmacy program, that's going to give us a little bit more insight on what to expect when we work with you during that time. Any other questions? These are all great.
And it's something I'm going to drop in the chat, y'all. I mean, because each and every one of you, but by showing your interest today or letting us know that you are very focused about getting into our program. And so I just want to, I'm dropping in the apply now information as far as just the application process, as far as the supplemental application and so on. For those of you that are interested in priority admission, that is something that is available to you. So definitely check that out. And the deadline for that is October the 3rd. And those students that apply prior to decision, if we have everything we need, they would ideally get a decision by November the 11th. So that's an opportunity I want to make sure you, each and every one on the call, are aware of. Any last questions as we wrap up? I know we're a little bit over time, so I just wanted to be sure to honor Mr. Richards' time as well as everyone else on the call. Any last question before we end the webinar?
I just want to see how to like take an make an appointment, like the website again.
So I posted in the chat. I'll post
okay.
it again, just so that it's a little easier to access.
And Zara, I'll follow up with you regarding that item about volunteering in pharmacy, because that's not specific to this session. So I want to make sure that we keep it within the focus of this matter. But for those of you, I'm also going to drop my email address. That way you can ask me. You can ask specific questions about other items that are for today or others. Okay. Well, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this session for today. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate each and every one of you. Best wishes on your application process, and I look forward to seeing your applications when they arrive into our from PharmCAS. Have a great day, a great weekend, and enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.